Alright, a couple of hands to start us off today. We got aces over here in this table. We've got ace 5 suited here. Gonna go ahead and range bet king 10-3 rainbow. Villain calls with ace of spades. I think we want to bet this super often on the turn. I don't think I have an exploit here. I don't actually have my HUD running. When I don't have my HUD running, I'm just going to bet because I think this is way more bet than check. Over here we get 4 bet. Got it through on the left-hand table, the right-hand table. We got it through the turn bet. I'll talk about that in a second. I want to talk about that briefly, actually. I think it's interesting. Aces, no dice, no action. We'll discuss this hand in 1 second. Actually, I do have something interesting to say about the turn. But for now, we flat 8-6 of clubs here. I think we're going to be playing small bets on this flop. Yeah, I think small bets because we do want to bet quite a lot of 4x, 6s, 7s, weak 9x on this texture. Some of these low boards I use a big sizing on. This one I just go small on. Going to check this time for no particular reason other than I don't have my RNG up. And I bet the last time I had a mix, so this time I've checked. I think here you can definitely play small bets or big. It's not going to make a huge difference. This hand is going to bet often. It doesn't have to bet. Don't have my RNG, so no way of mixing here against this reg. Gotta check. When we wait until river here, I think big bet with this particular combo makes the most sense. We're unblocking some king, queen, king, jack folds in this spot. I think we're supposed to bluff this one. This could be an over-defended spot, but I'm pretty sure we're meant to bluff this one. Going to go for this sizing. This is a decent sizing with ace-x here, just slight overbet. Gets it through. So let me show you guys a quick roadmap on how to really understand this spot. So with c-bet flop with range villains called, obviously we have to have some selectivity on this turn, but this is going to be a EV favorable landscape for our range. What that means is that our range is going to be entitled to more of the pot than our opponent's range. Try to see heads up pots as zero-sum games, so all the money that's ours is not his and vice versa. So in this situation, I'd imagine our range is entitled to something like 57% of the pot, something like that, which means that we don't have to be overly selective. We can bluff with some hands here that don't have obvious flush and straight draws, while many of our bluffs will be things like 8-9, queen jack, queen 9, jack 9, spades, 4-5, 5-6. It's also completely reasonable to bluff with a hand that has a live overcard a lot of the time, blocks villains raising range and some calls, and unblocks folding range as a result. So this is going to get in there as well. Don't compare this hand to queen jack. Don't say queen jack is a better hand than ace 5 and I would rather have queen jack than ace 5, so I'll bet queen jack and not ace 5. The premises of that argument are actually true, that queen jack is a better hand than ace 5. It's the invalidity of the argument that's the problem. It doesn't follow from those premises that you want to bet queen jack but not ace 5. Both hands will have similar check EVs to bet EVs, like the EV of betting queen jack won't be better than the EV of checking it in theory, nor will the EV of betting ace 5 be better or worse than the EV of checking it in theory. Queen jack will have a higher EV overall than ace 5, but there won't be a difference between betting and checking with that hand. Ace 5 will have a lower EV overall, but there won't be a difference between betting and checking with that hand. Thus, as long as the world is not really unfavorable, you are allowed to bluff with hands like this, and you should see this hand as completely fine to bluff in a favorable landscape, in position, big nut advantage, etc. 8-6, it's amazing how lost I felt here without my RNG. Not lost, I was just like, how do I randomize? How do I, a fleshy, horrible human with mucusy brain stuff in my head, how do I possibly do what the silicon-based computer can do and actually come up with a frequency? It's really hard for mucusy brain creatures to do what computers can do, so just try and remember that you always are and always will be for the rest of your life a mucusy brain creature, not an RNG. So it's really taxing for us to come up with a random decision here. I know that bet and check are both fine on the turn in this situation, and I don't really mind which one I take. The thing is that I can avoid over bluffing this river quite easily by just making sure that my range bluffs a lot earlier. So when I have hands like 5-6, jack 10, queen jack, jack 8, etc., I'm going to be bluffing a lot on the flop of the turn, thus not that many of those hands reach this river. Meanwhile, the ace I do get here with quite often. This is a very good river for villain's range too though, and when the river lands, villain is actually going to be in a favorable world, as we would say in the language of the carrot poker skill. So when we get to this spot and villain checks, there's actually a swing in EV in our favor. So villain did have a range advantage, but when they check here, it's going to be the case that this is quite a neutral world in terms of EV, and that means that when we have the right kind of combo, we can definitely bet. What would the right kind of combo be for bluffing? It would be something like 8-6. It'd be something like a busted flush draw. A busted flush draw is the holy grail of bluffs in this spot, because when we reach this node passively, villain's air is mostly going to be, or not air, but like his king queen, his king jack, his folding range here, is mostly not going to be hearts, because that's going to be betting at a high frequency on the flop or the turn. his own hearts are very often going to bet river because they would unblock our own folds, because we also bet hearts more earlier, so their hearts are going to block our hearts and therefore unblock our air, and therefore it's very good for him to bet with hearts in this spot. It's also good for us to bet with hearts in this spot, so when you reach a node passively and all the draws break, you want to bluff with those busted draws on the river. If that was too much of a mouthful for you to comprehend, don't worry, it doesn't really matter. Blockers are kind of dumb and they only affect EV swings by a couple of % pop, so who cares? What really matters here is what sizing we would go, and I think when we have an ace-x hand, 2-pair, etc., this overbet sizing is going to be kind of prevalent in our strategy. I just decided to do it here. Ordinarily, I would mix, but I think most of our bet sizes here should be very large. The reason for this is that 7x and lower probably doesn't bet this node. 9x would have bet earlier the vast majority of the time. We don't have 10s, jacks, queens, kings from preflop, so basically our value range is almost exclusively ace-x plus, and that's why we would go for a big sizing on this node. It makes sense to build your bluffs around your value range, because if you don't, you end up taking a size for a bluff that you would never have for value, and the more astute players are going to pick you apart like vultures tearing into a corpse that's freshly fallen from a cliff and landed on a beach, and they're going to shred it to pieces, and you're going to end up getting exploited. Most of the time, people don't exploit you. If you play 25 and L, no one ever exploits you because everyone sucks at poker, so that's okay. But if you do play in a pool like this and I bet 1/3 pot here, that's awfully suspicious given I have very few value hands for that sizing, and given that that's a sizing that needs to be a sort of 80-20 value to bluffs ratio in order to not be over bluffing. Let's jump back into the pool here. Pocket fives in the small blind. You could play a little bit of call here. I'm going to call this like 20% of the time. Actually rolled it. Most of the time just going to be folding. But I knew the set was coming, or rather the RNG did. Going to be a pure check raise here against even a big bet. 5 of spades helps. It dramatically cuts down, not dramatically, but it slightly cuts down the equity of villain's range here. Against a weaker player over here, I am actually going to go ahead and 3-bet this one up to 12. And over here, we're going to go ahead and hopefully not time out. The main order of the day here is to not time out. Let's pick a sizing that's not ridiculous. Something like this seems good. We could probably go a bit bigger than this, just given that we are raising this very polarized. Villain calls, we get a very good card for our range, a very bad card for our hand. Our hand is now probably just going to block bet along with everything else that we are playing here. Range betting this card small is actually going to be quite a cool little trick. We do have quite a lot of redraw equity in this spot, and our range is doing very well. We can still get a bit of value with this bet, but we need to be somewhat careful here. I think on the river, our hand is a lot worse than you would think. I'm debating whether I can even value bet here, and I don't actually think I can. I think this is probably just a check on the 3 straight 3 flush texture. So I'm going to check here. I think this has been demoted to what I would refer to as tier 4 in the Carrot Poker School. We do actually manage to survive there and win. And we win against probably 2-pair, yeah, King Queen. But I don't really fancy my chances for value betting against King Queen there, specifically because it's a very small part of villain's range, and we should not, ladies and gents, ever fall victim at any point in our lives to the horrendous, the disgusting, the revolting, the abominable targeting fallacy. So basically our equity had just dropped too much for us to be able to really do anything. 6 is pure defend. Another set, guys. Another day, another set. Flipping sets. Just raining sets today. This is kind of nice. Another pure raise spot. Not going to be any slow play. Going to go up to... Well, here I'm actually going to be raising quite polarized as well. So going to use a big sizing in this spot. Because I'm raising effectively ace queen plus or something here. If I was against button, I would be raising wider. It's just the way I play the spot. Can I be 75 here? Can I slight overbet? I don't think it really matters. I think slight overbet is about right at the SPR. 5-5 is going to be checking back most hands most of the time on this texture. And here we're going to go for slight overbet on the turn with the 6s. Fortunately, 5-3 is not in villain's range here. Queens, unfortunately, is. This player slapped us in the last video, so it'd be really nice to get a bit of revenge right here. We like a bit of revenge on this channel. Revenge is a very productive and lovely thing. I guess we shove river. I don't see any slow play on this node. Why would we? Go ahead and jam. Jack 10, I could bet here, I could check here. I'm just going to roll. It doesn't really matter. I'll just delay my aggression until the river. Going to jam the 6s meanwhile. Hope to get called. Jack 10, I think now it's certainly time to bluff this texture with this hand. It's not the best texture for range, but we are doing okay here. I think you can go for a variety of different sizes here. I'm going to go for block. I don't normally do this in position, but I think in this texture it's quite difficult to actually defend against. Let's try and get paid off here with the 6s. Lots of different sizes you can use on the left. You can go for big bet, you can go for block. Calling with King Queen is good if he thinks I'm overbluffing, and I actually am overbluffing. I'm actually overbluffing that spot because what I did there, we do get paid off, which is lovely. What I did there was I didn't roll and I was really sloppy, and I just did the same thing that I told you guys not to do before, which was to be super sloppy with your sizing and not really think about... I did think about what my value range was doing in that hand, It's just that I didn't roll bigger bets. I should have used bigger bets as well. I think Jack 10 is a mandatory bluff for me there. I don't think Queen High is in that texture because I don't have a big enough range advantage to bluff like right up into the Queen Highs and King Highs, I don't think. But Jack High I think is mandatory. And what I probably should have done is rolled between all different sizes. Like I could have some slight overbet, which is B120. I could have some big bet and I could have some block bet as well. So all of them would have been okay. I think the check call with the King Queen is probably really standard actually. I don't think that's a hand that's really caring what it does there. But yeah, we have a lot of value bets in that spot that are just like under pair and stuff, but they can probably go bigger on that node. Because it was 4 straight, I felt like my under pair region was just happy to block instead of big bet there, which isn't something I do that much in position on the river, but there I thought it was good. I won't do too many more hand reviews. I'm going to try and keep these videos a bit shorter and keep them mostly live play, because I think you guys do like that, but let me know in the comments what you actually like. Don't forget to check out Carrot Corner as well for all of our courses, paid content, and if you do want to start your academic slog through the realm of poker theory, then the Carrot Poker School is waiting for you at carrotcorner.com. We have King Jack here in a 3-way pot. We are hijack against button against big blind. I think we can build some bets here. I think we can also check. I'll bet this hand like about a third of the time or something. I don't think it really matters what we do against a couple of regs. Assuming this is a reg, it might not be. I think again, well, probably now actually, this is just a pure check. 3-way here, we do get more useful fold equity, like the denial we get, the protection we get is a bit better, but that said, it's a bit dicey. How big do I want my block value bet to be here? Probably just something like this, to be honest. I don't think I want it to be too large. All right, takes it down. Not that we're trying to bluff or anything, but yeah, hoping to get called by just some kind of weaker jack or under pair on that node, of course. Not that we're targeting those hands, guys. We don't target here. If you want to defend targeting on Twitter, why don't you tag me on Twitter and tell me why you want to defend it? And I will personally fight you over it. Like, I will actually, you know, like fist fight you over it. Just kidding. But we can debate. I'm not much of a fighter, but we can debate. Pocket 4 is checking on ace king 9. We can pure fold against the c-bet here in this hand. Don't have to defend the underpair when there are 3 cards to it. Against overbet, we would actually fold some king x. Would you believe it? We would. We would fold some king x. We would be mixing. Doesn't look like it, but we would be mixing. And do smash the like button, guys, if you enjoy these live formats. It means a lot to us that you do that. It keeps our channel growing. We are growing nicely, but slowly. People keep coming onto the comments and be like, I can't believe this guy only has 6k subs. I can't either, man. If people not like this, not like me flipping sets all the time, it's good content, no? Let us know what you think. We do appreciate all the comments. We do get a lot of activity in our videos, and we really appreciate that. I do try to respond to all of them as well. Sometimes I miss a video or parts of the comment section. I do my best. So in this spot with jacks, we face a 3-bet from big blind. I like to alternate between call and 4-bet here. I'm going to go 60% 4-bet. The rest is going to be call. I think that's going to be fine. And sizing against big blind does not need to be too big, actually. I think 26.7 or something is totally fine. Don't need to go too big here. Obviously, we are calling this off 100 big blinds deep if we have to. We'd rather not. That's the best result. But aren't you 4-betting jacks for value, Pete Clark? Yeah, I am, but it's very thin. The value mainly comes on the branch where they call the 4-bet, not the one where they jam. We do have to call off the jam. We are going to be a slight dog in doing that. And no, there's no contradiction there. Denial is very important pre-flop. Interesting spot, guys. We get 3x here by cutoff, king queen off. I think this is just a pure call in theory. I mean, you could 3-bet here, but I think call is a bit better. I'd rather leave some room for skill edge to operate here against such a player. Like, yes, we're out of position, which does decrease it, but I like skill edge being operational. Against half pot, you could raise. The problem with raising is that this player will reopen for 3-bet way more often with the 2-pair plus region, and also some overpair, like more than most regs would. So this being a recreational player, I think we definitely just want to call and go from there. We do turn a flush draw. To go with the top pair in the gutter is just going to be in bluff capture territory. I think river is block. I think weaker players can kind of overreact to this turn and go into shutdown mode too often, but they're still calling river. I think block is easily the best sizing here. I don't think this is a spot that will get bluffed incredibly frequently. And I think villain has so many merged hands for betting half pot on the flop, so many more 10x, jacks, 9x, etc. than they should have weak queen. I think block just really overperforms here. I love this line. And we do get him. Got him. Yes, got him. Got him, boys and girls, of course. Over here, we've gone for a check with the jack 10. We could go for a bet here also. It doesn't really matter, but we're playing a very low bet frequency on this board, which means that our global bet frequency, that's our bet frequency with the range, is going to be low. There are going to be some hands that do exceed that. This is probably not one of them. We get the turn of the 8 of hearts. I would play blocks and... do I play overbets here? Yeah, I think we can play blocks and overbets here, and I don't really mind which one I go for. I'm going to go for an overbet this time. I think these pair draws are more than good enough to take this line. Over here with ace-5, we've checked against a weaker player. They're going to reopen a bit too much here. I think I prefer check raise with this particular hand. They're going to reopen some here. I don't think it's a disaster. It's kind of bad if Atex jams on me, actually. Like, it's kind of terrible. Do I just want to call? Maybe I'll just call. I think I'll just call. Oh my god, I folded 10s on the other table. I folded pocket potatoes and a hijack. You guys didn't see it, but it happened. It was very painful. I was too busy commentating and looking at OBS to make sure the right table was showing. The EV lost by being a content creator. Now that we have the showdown value, we have a lovely just calling hand. So the reason I didn't raise flop here is this player just looks a little bit volatile, and if we do get jammed on at that SPR, it's horrendous. Like, theoretically, there's nothing wrong at all with raising the flop here. I'm going to just call down here. I think the base range is far too wide for this player. They're really going to struggle not to overbluff. Pot kind of sucks, but I'm still going to call down. I think we easily win 33%. Happy. Is the same hand as us? That's complete nonsense. It just shows you, though, how wide that player is going to be overbluffing that node. So it's going to be an amazingly good call against this player, as we suspected. But unfortunately, at that time, they just have the inexplicable merge that weaker players are going to have. If you're ever in the card room and somebody plays like that, don't shout at them. Don't be like, hey, bro, you've made a polarization error. You should check out the Carrot Poker School at carrotcorner.com. We can do that, but like, don't be too mean to them. Because after all, they've not studied the game. They don't know what they're doing. They're not really in your league. So don't like place them on your hierarchy and try and stomp on them, because they're not in your league. They're not in your realm of being a studied poker player. Remember that. Doesn't mean that you should be like really lovely to them in some kind of weird, psychopathic, manipulative attempt to keep them at the table so you can feed off of them and harvest their EV from their corpse. Like, you shouldn't do that either. You shouldn't be like, oh, would you like a coffee? Oh, you're so cool. I love your hair. You shouldn't do that just because like you want them to stay at the table. That's also like really kind of sick. But like, don't stomp on them either, you know? It happens. It happens. Ace 4. Is this like 3-bet? This must be like 10% 3-bet. The rest call, right? Yeah, I think this is the rest call with the wheel ace that's not ace 3 or ace deuce. Ace 3, ace deuce suck from reverse implied odds too often. This one I think can peel, just about. Just about. Pocket aces, let's go. Let's fucking go. Weaker player. This pool is good this morning, man. This pool is good. Let's go for the 10 big blind 3-ball. Could go 11, could go 9. Doesn't really matter. I prefer going on the bigger side against the weaker players. Snap calls, excellent. Might size up here. I could see big bet being a bit better than small bet when there's so many mergey hands. You could also check raise. This player does look a bit crazy. The timing, though, makes me think they're not going to think, and they might just auto-check if I check, so I think I will go for B60 here. You can definitely B33 here, it doesn't really matter. The snap timing pre just makes me kind of like think this could just be someone playing fit or fold, fishing for hitting flops, and check might go down in EV a little bit. I don't know how aggro they are, I just know that they're not thinking and they're a weaker player. So I prefer just big bet there. I think big bet is very nice in that spot. And yeah, the solver will tell you to small bet that spot probably because it thinks that the polarization advantage that you have has been negated somewhat by the presence of the king and the jack, and it will say you have a big range advantage without as big of a polarization slash nut advantage, and it'll be like, okay, small bets may be slightly more prevalent, but it doesn't matter. Lovely check call spot here. We're going to give this player a chance to tell us who they are. Who are you, and what are you doing with that absurd 62% VPIP? Would you like to triple off against us, please? That's not a good turn card. It doesn't matter though, we're still calling. 2 big blinds, 1 big blind, 1.8 big blinds, 1.8 big blinds? 1.8 big blinds, guys? Let's do it. 1.8 big blinds. Calling a raise here. Calling a raise here, guys. BSTI, as Charlie Carroll likes to say. Bet small to induce. Not just to induce. The reason I don't like BSTI is partly that it sounds kind of weird as an acronym. The other reason I don't like it is that you don't just bet small to induce, you also bet small for value, and inducing is one of the side benefits, really. It doesn't happen that often that you get raised there. It can happen, but you also get called. You get called a lot more by a worse hand than you get raised by one. That's for sure. Depending on the player. So here we continue. I'm going to be calling a C-bet, probably not raising one because this player looks crazy. Oh god, against pot though, I'll probably fold. This sucks. I was going to continue. I think against pot, from what we've just seen, you know, they were quite placid in the last hand after they faced resistance. I'm going to fold. I think that range is too mergy, too many top pair in it, that sort of thing. Just getting a spidey sense from game flow that I do not want to be continuing there. Lion versus blind. This is a danger zone flop. The danger zone means that there are loads of cards between a 3 and an 8, and they're all connected. When that happens, we want to play a very low bet frequency strategy, and I usually just simplify to range check in this spot. Pretty much in the middle of range here. If we were a little bit higher, like ace jack, ace queen, we can start mixing in the block bet for value. This hand is going to be a pure check call. It's a pure check and a pure check call. I don't know exactly what I'm doing with every hand in my range before I do it. I wonder if ace-9 can block here. Can ace-9 block here? I mean, the 9 is going to play a lot of the time. When it's 4 straight, though, I don't think so. I think we have to check. Because I don't know this player, I probably have to call the river here, because this is such an overbluffed spot by pool. And I don't love it, because a good reg here will actually contain their frequencies quite nicely. But there's no way. This is such an overbluffed spot by the general pop that we easily win 30% of the time. It's just such a taking candy from a baby type spot. If you guys are folding there because your relative hand strength, or your absolute hand strength rather, doesn't look very good, you're getting it wrong. If you remember that ace-9 beats all bluffs and villain can very easily lose control of the bluffing frequency, that's why you call. You need 30%. Actually posted on Twitter in one of Nick Howard's posts, he was sort of saying like, loads of his students are going ahead and folding in spots where they only need X% equity because they want to win more than they lose. And I was saying, yes, it's like so common. Such a common league. Always outline your target explicitly, like how much equity do you need? That's really going to help you in that spot. Alright guys, we're done. We're wrapping up. Hope you've enjoyed this one. You know what to do. Do leave us a like, do leave us a comment, let us know what you think. And check out carrotcorner.com for everything else from me. I'll be back very soon with more YouTube content. Bye bye.